Tapping in.
Are we live?
Atlanta, the show, FX, Donald Glover. This show speaks to me, bruh. I'll start there.
Good place to start. I think we can conclude definitely, man. Season 3 of Atlanta, Donald Glover pulled up again with it. The man's brilliant, bro. The man is absolutely brilliant. And this is what I hear to be the last season of Atlanta on FX.
Oh man, they changing labels. They on PG Lang.
There might be PG Lang in it, but it's also possible that the show, this might be the last season of the show. But season 3, Atlanta, the final installment on FX, highly popular show based in Europe, whole lot of social commentary, whole lot of content. I was very interested to hear what you thought about the show because I know you weren't too fond of some elements of season 2. And in between season 2 and season 3 dropping, we had some pretty strong social commentary shows by Black directors that came out. Also non-Black directors, Dave specifically. And then you also had the Bust Down that came out. So there were the Carmichael show. So there were a lot of shows in between that popped up. Atlanta was started as the top show when it first came out to critical acclaim. And so it's interesting to see their transition now from being a story that focuses just on the Black narrative to being what it is today in season 3.
Yeah, you introduced that beautifully. And yeah, you're right. The first season of Atlanta, I think, is one of my favorite pieces of work. Like as a representation of culture, I would recommend that to not necessarily anybody to enjoy it, but anybody, if you really want as close as you can get to being immersed in a culture without, and that means jokes are going over your head, but you're there, right? It feels like you're present among just Black folks chilling in an authentic way. Like season 1 of Atlanta delivers that amazingly. Season 2 follows up on that idea. And I think there's this creative incline. There's a trajectory toward stranger concepts and a changing tone that is embodied or hinted at in season 2 and fully manifests in season 3. And in a similar way, almost to Kendrick, this is a place where the early work was everything I ever wanted and more. And I'm in a place where I'm now appreciating some of the later work for its artistic value and for some of the topics that it's trying to tackle, but not necessarily feeling as spoken to. And I can appreciate that as a selfish thing because it feels like there are broader themes and they're talking to and about other groups. But I feel like both Kendrick and Donald Glover through Atlanta started with a focus that I felt very seen. And I think they're both with intentionality trying to make other people feel seen. And that's been interesting for me to watch evolve and to experience as a fan.
Yes. Artistically, he's flexing. They're flexing on here. And you have to give shout out to the whole writing team, to the director team. It's not just Donald Glover. You know, he makes it a point to be able to say that it is a huge collective. Even Zazie Beetz, has some producer credits on one of the episodes. So it's a very intentional show. And I love how you describe the creative incline that they do, because they do take a huge creative front step in the concepts that they approach in the topics that they come into, starting in episode 1. And I wanted to ask you about how you felt about what you felt about that episode where they adopted the white people adopting the Black kids, the white lesbian couple. But even from that episode, the episode's called 3 Slaps. Check this out. And I checked this out when I was rewatching it, right? The episode's called 3 Slaps. It starts off with the scene in the boat. That's scene 1. And then from there, freaks out. He gets grabbed. The dude in the thing gets grabbed and then wakes up as a child in the classroom. And then wakes up at the end of the show as Donald Glover in the classroom. And when he's still a child, his grandfather goes up there and slaps him 3 times, right? So clearly they're extremely intentional in a Kendrick-esque way as well about putting in these different pointers into their creativity, meaning that almost at every point they are trying to be able to get through with the message or trying to convey certain concepts. What did you think of the lesbian ladies adopting the black kids episode?
I thought it was a really, looking back, having finished the season, it was a perfect introduction to what the season was going to be. Even the choice to use an episode that doesn't feature the main cast really until that last shot of Donald Glover, to let folks know that this season of Atlanta is going to be different and it's going to be broader and it's not going to necessarily lean on the main characters to deliver its message. I think that's understandable when I first watch it. I mean, part of me goes, okay, uh, my boy that plays Paperboy was just in a Marvel movie. Lakeith Stanfield was just in The Harder They Fall and is getting a whole bunch of looks. This cast has so many opportunities. It might be hard to bring them folks together. Maybe they're trying to fill some of that non-scheduled time with these other vignettes, right? Cool. Take it for what it is. I liked it, didn't love it, appreciated it for the perspective that it gave. But this is my issue with this season is that, and I'm again willing to say that it's a selfish one, but when Atlanta came out, Atlanta, both in the show, and I think there was an intentionality in the show embodying Atlanta is a black city. The whole thing about going to Atlanta is that you're in a space where even though we're still under this American system, the majority of the cops are black. A lot of the politicians are black. A lot of the successful business people are black. And so everything is black on black. The interactions weren't based on the dynamic between black people as oppressed by white people. The whole show was black people getting to interact within their own community, exploring issues that black folks have with each other, exploring certain coded language and ways in which black folks that are excluded or don't know about a certain aspect of their own culture struggle to determine and figure out their identity. It was so inclusive of the group that it was about and focusing on. And now it's branching out. And I think that first episode illustrates to show, and maybe I don't want to say it's for white people, but there's a lot more energy and effort devoted to helping to explain this dynamic between black people and white people. And while that's cool and it's done beautifully, I miss the show being a warm place where I got to see black people not thinking about white people.
Yeah, it's one of those things where they have so many different tools that are at their disposal. Like if you look at episode 9, Rich Wigger, Poor Wigger, like the shooting, the film, the scope that they shoot it in, the grain, the scenes, the lights. Rest in peace, Kevin Samuels, who's on that episode too. They do a masterful job in how they portray that story. And granted, one could say, in place in lieu of that episode, you could have done. What's Alfred like in Europe? Let's keep exploring deeper into the Alfred character, who I think him and Darius get robbed the most of their screen time on this show, which is a very interesting. Which I wonder why that's the case. Definitely it looks into the Vanessa character, the Ern character, but um, Al and Darius tend to have a very limited involvement in the show, right? It will tell a story about the things around them, but it's like diving into them up until the final episode where they're in Amsterdam. The last few episodes where they're in Amsterdam, they dive into that. But yeah, it seems like the intention was to be able to say, okay, we're going to show all of our tools off. We're going to show you how good our writing is, as per episode 10, right? It was the last episode where it's going to be like, we're going to make a movie out of this. It's going to be crazy and forget plot logic and forget storyline holes. We're just going to make a dope movie that looks into woman depression. And then we're going to shoot some fly stuff in black and white. We want to be able to show that, and we're going to have a bit of horror, and we're going to have a bit of social commentary. So I think this season they wanted to display all of their artistic capabilities, which they did well. But where it loses, at least where it could turn some people off, is in the lack of continuity that the show might have, as we saw in season 1, where each episode folds into another one quite seamlessly. But also some people might enjoy this new Black Mirror-esque approach to it, like our producer has said was his favorite elements of the show, that you don't know really what you're going to get out of it.
Yeah, it's everything it's trying to do. I think it does well. I think for me, it's like watching a chef that I love make desserts, make a whole bunch of salty stuff. That's fire. And it's like, oh, that's fire, but make that cake though. Remember that cake? And they like wings. And I'm like, remember that cake? And they like risotto. And I'm like, remember that cake? And they like sea bass. You know what I mean? But everything that they serving up is dope. I appreciated the reparations episode as like, I don't know. I'm interested to like, this is something that made me want to look on the internet to see how people was taking it. Cause I'm watching the reparations episode and I go, as somebody who's like trying to figure this out in real time, like what it actually looks like to get reparations for Black people through a variety of different systems and institutions, it's never going to look like individual cash transfers from white people that used to own slaves to Black people that are the descendants of those people. And it never is going to look like that. But in watching it, I'm thinking, are people getting that? Or are people taking it literally as like, this is what Black people and Black creatives want to happen? I saw it more as a depiction of this is what white people are afraid of, so let's play with it a little bit. But there's so much in this show, and I love that it doesn't baby the audience to like tell you this is what we meant. It just leaves it up in the air, and that's a bold artistic choice. But there's so many different ways to interpret this show, to take it. I'm sure there were mad light-skinned brothers that were offended by the Kevin Samuels episode. You know what I'm saying? Like, I appreciate that about the art. It's fire. And I don't want to come off like I don't like the show. It just was more of a mixed bag, more of a mystery box than I expected. I did not know that it might be the final season of the show. So looking at it like that, I'm glad they got off so many of the different angles and perspectives that they were able to deliver on. So many moments still hit. So I appreciate what Childish is doing. I'm interested to see where he goes next. I will be sad if this is the last season of Atlanta, because this combination of characters I wanted to see more of. So long live Atlanta. But fire show, recommended to anybody. It's definitely weird, but if you're looking for something that has a different pace and that holds your attention in a different way, and knows how to pull at the heartstrings, but also show the beauty of people of color, just the one.
This your show. And if we have to give an official review on it, Miles, I would have to say I'd give this a 4 out of 5, man. I'd give this a 4 out of 5. I love the way it's shot. Location, choosing Europe. I think Black entertainers we've seen over time have had very peculiar situations that happen in Europe. As a man of color in Europe too, there are situations that are like, okay, this is a bit interesting, but I think like they portray that peculiarity quite well. It's shot well, it's written well. It's a good trilogy of a season. If this is all we get from Atlanta, I'd say that they've put out a stellar 3 seasons out, man. So 4 out of 5 for me.
Yeah, 4 out of 5 reels. This one is real for real. And if you like this, check out Bust Down, as my brother mentioned. Dave will be doing another episode where Zway explains why he likes Dave better than Atlanta. I still don't get it, but we'll get there. Any other shows? Insecure. Anything else that this reminds you of that people should check out?
Now you're just naming all the shows of Black people in. Steve Harvey show, if you're into
Steve Harvey show was fire. The Jamie Foxx show was fire. There's more out there than Martin and Fresh Prince, y'all. You know what I'm saying?